Okay, guys, I want to talk about what I think is the secret to intermittent fasting. But first, let's roll the intro. We don't have an intro. That's awkward. Let's jump straight in. So what is the secret to intermittent fasting? Is there even a secret? To me, the secret is that it's maintainable. You can be consistent with this approach, and therein lies its success. As you can see from this photo, I was approaching my late 20s and I was getting a little bit out of shape. All that fat was kind of moving southwards like it does with us guys. And nothing I was doing was working. And then I discovered intermittent fasting. I took a mild approach at first, which I recommend. I extended my fasting window just by 2 hours because there was a period of time that it took to get used to this. Only a few weeks, but I stuck with that approach for a little while and I was working out. And I had some moderate success and ended up looking like this. Not great by any stretch of the imagination, but I was making progress. Then I moved to the 16-8 approach. Now, there are many variations of this. I don't want to get too scientific, so I'm going to leave a link to some journal articles down below if you want to read a bit more about that, or let me know if you want me to talk about them in any further detail. But I did the 16-8 for a further year and then got these results. Now, obviously, I was kind of making the gains I wanted to make, getting the results that I wanted to get, and I found something that worked for me. I think all in all, this was approaching 1.5 to 2 years of playing around with intermittent fasting and doing it consistently for the last year. And that's when I realised that the secret to its success is that it's maintainable, that it becomes a lifestyle. It's not a crash diet. It's not a fad like a lot of the fad diets out there. And all in all, I was educating myself on nutrition and human biology. So what are some of the pros of IF? Why might you want to do this? For me, it was to burn fat initially. And how does it do this? Well, you're extending the window that you're not eating. So a few things happen when you do this. You deplete. You'll hear people saying, "Oh, what you fast? You don't eat? So what? You're starving? You're going into starvation mode?" And you'll hear all this sort of negativity that people throw at you. And let's be honest, they don't really know what they're talking about. What will happen is your body will tap into its glycogen stores. And then when you actually break the fast, your body will improve its partitioning of those nutrients to replenish those glycogen stores. And it all in all works more effectively and goes less towards storing fat. Now, by not constantly eating, you're not constantly having these peaks and troughs of insulin and spiking your insulin all day long and reducing your sensitivity to insulin. Now, by having an improved insulin sensitivity, again, when you break that fast and when you eat those meals, your body, this compounds that nutrient partitioning effect, and more goes to replenishing your glycogens, building muscle, and less to storing fat. Now, all these effects are what we want to slowly move us towards our goals. Some studies argue that there's a boost in growth hormone of up to 2,000%. Now, if you work out, that is awesome news, mainly because insulin blunts growth hormone production. So obviously, if you have a greater fasting window, then your production is going to be increased. Again, you can check those articles out if you want to read a little bit more about that. For me, these are all amazing benefits, absolutely fantastic. But for me, the beauty and the magic lied in the simplicity of staying in a calorie deficit, the ease of staying in a calorie deficit. I had a moderate 300 to 500 deficit, losing roughly 0.7 to 1 pound a week that stayed off. I was going to say it came off the right places, but we don't know. We know you cannot do spot reduction. But again, I was working out at the same time, and I managed to, I even managed to build a little muscle while in that deficit. The biggest hurdle for me was the psychological barrier. I remember when I did my first fasted training session, and I felt dizzy. I felt sick. I was like, I can't believe I'm training with nothing in my stomach. But then, literally, like the second time I did it, or the third time I did it, I was fine. And then I was hitting PRs in a fasted state, and I realized, I don't think that was my body. I think that was more a psychological barrier. I'd conditioned myself to thinking, I have to train with food in my stomach. Whether you want to do that or not, you can look into this. That's up to you. And if you're concerned, or if you have any, physical ailments, then I would seek the advice and recommendations of a doctor or a nutritionist. So, talking about that psychological barrier, what it also allowed me to do was to improve my relationship with food. I was breaking my paradigm and my current view of eating. As soon as I felt a bit of hunger, I had to reach for something and eat it. I wasn't comfortable being hungry. Now I'm quite comfortable being hungry. And I'm not saying I walk around starving, but if I feel a little bit of hunger in the morning, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't control me and make me dive for something. Now, what are a few tips that you need to do? Okay. If I push my mind to about 2 p.m. So obviously, you're not getting any hydration from foods that you might eat, and it's important to make sure you're consuming water and staying hydrated during that window. I also drink black coffee, simply to, blunt my hunger. There are no calories in it, so you don't break that fast. And I love coffee anyway. I'm a bit of a coffee addict. And it's nice, I don't feel like I'm going without then. I look forward to my morning coffees. And again, the secret to this is the consistency and having it be maintainable. Now, if it's no fun and you're miserable and you wake up and you're thinking, oh, I'm denying myself all these amazing things, you're not going to be able to maintain it. You're not going to be able to look back in 6 months' time or a year's time and, you've stuck to it if it's painful for you and if it's uncomfortable. So I recommend, I'm no expert, but, the way I started was I just pushed that first meal by 2 hours, and I saw moderate results from that, and I acclimatized to extending my fast. Then, I pushed it another one, and then I kind of settled around on the 16 to 8. Some people do, 5 days eating, 2 days fast, or different eating windows through the day. You've got to find what works to you. I like to eat at night. I'm a bit of a night owl, so I tend to eat around 2 or 3, and then that lets me sort of nudge up a little bit later in the night. I do like to eat on a night, and it sort of fits in with my training schedule as well. I can then kind of mostly train fasted, and then crush that amazing post-workout meal and reap all those nutrient partitioning benefits from that fasting brings us. So the reason I'm making this and future videos is that the way I view succeeding at anything, whether it's fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, motivation, finance, relationships, is that, success takes time. So to succeed, it has to be repeatable, maintainable, and you have to be consistent. Now, to be consistent for me, because I can be quite lazy, it requires effortless consistency. So if I can find something that I don't even realize I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, that is how it's maintainable. And that's what I recommend giving a go. Just try the slight increases, a slight disruption in your, your normal way of doing things. And it'll be easier, and you'll stick to it, and that's where you will get the results by looking back a year later, and it's not just been some crash course that you did and you rebounded from and you look worse than when you started. So we want to do what works consistently. So have you tried IF? A different variation? Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? Drop me a like. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want me to go a little bit more in depth on any of this information or any of these variations, maybe explore them a bit further, I'm happy to do that. Just subscribe, leave me a comment, and I'll get to work on those. So good luck with whichever one you choose. Have a read of the articles that I've left, and enjoy it. Talk to you soon.